All right, welcome to another broadcast, live broadcast. Here it is. Today's date is Friday, August. We'll be in October in a minute. August the 8th, 2025. Broadcasting to you live from beautiful state of Arizona, where I believe yesterday we reached a high of 118 degrees. Yeah, it's like that out here. So I was out walking yesterday, and usually when I go the trail I go on that's near here, I take my shirt off because it's kind of a, private area or whatever. You could do that or whatever. People be jogging around here. That's fine. I just don't want people seeing all my muscles and all that, feeling, insecure about themselves or anything like that. No, I'm just playing. But but anyway, man, that thing was cooking my skin. I was like, man, I gotta hurry up and get back, do what I need to do and get back in. It was cooking out there yesterday and today too. They're saying that it's gonna cool down some, but Arizona cool down is relative. So, but it's quite warm, but I still like it. Because you got to stay focused when you're outside. And but anyway, we're going to start here in give it about a minute and give people time to get on. I hope you guys had a great week. We're going to talk about just two things today, and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about, I'm just going to go over this. I don't know if you guys have heard about this Nearest Distillery situation. I want to just touch on that a little bit because it's a really interesting story. There's layers to it, but I want to kind of hone in on a post I did earlier today and talk about it. We're going to more than likely do a separate video just about that whole topic, about the Nearest Distillery situation, because there's a lot in that. There's a whole lot in it. And the way I'm going to touch on it today is just going to be kind of an overview and really focusing in on something that I don't know if too many people are going to even talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. And of course, the main topic that we're going to talk about today will be this this claim that people put out there all the time regarding this, when it comes to these people are fleeing, the FBA crowd out here. They're saying that people are out here fleeing, and when they mean fleeing, they're talking about Caribbeans, Africans, or whatever. They're fleeing their homelands to come to this land. We built this land. You coming on our land, and you guys won't even go back to go on your land and all this stuff. So we're going to look at that because it's time for us to put to rest this nonsense. Okay. Thank you, MXInf. I'm trying to see if I can pronounce it for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So glad that you're here. So glad that everyone else, you're joining us today. All right. So like I said, again, we're going to jump right into it today. We're going to get right into it. And really, really something. So anyway, about another 10 seconds and then let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to go ahead, like I said, get right into it. This broadcast is all of our broadcasts and all of our videos. They are brought to you by our wonderful website, SambaTree.com, for all your health and wellness needs. Make sure you check out our website, SambaTree.com. Perhaps we'll take a break in a little bit and we'll go over there and just show you the website. Okay. And I put a post up there yesterday talking about the connection between weight loss and mental health. And And so anyway, there you go, MX. We're gonna get into it. We getting ready to get into it now. See, let me just go ahead. Let's go. See, thank you. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it right now. Okay. So let me pull up this post. There's individuals talking about here. And I saw this thing, and I'm just looking at it from the peripheral, and I've been hearing about this distillery off and on. I was telling my wife, I said, we don't drink, I don't drink, and nobody drinks or smokes in this house here. But I will say this, I really, really like the culture around like cigar, the cigar culture. I'm really into that, just, all the leather, that deep colors and the woods and all of that. It just, I like it. I just don't like the smoke. I don't like it. I like learning about how they make cigars and, just the tradition and all that. It's a beautiful kind of hobby to get into, But like I said, again, I got respect for those. If you do the whole smoking thing, that's you. I ain't got no hatred towards you. That's just not me. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with drinking. I don't drink, but I like the, bourbon culture, the whiskey culture and all of that. And it's just really fascinating. And so in doing my preliminary research in this story, I came across, you got people who are really into it, like really, really into it, which I already knew. But you got podcasters out there that's all they talk about. And so it was an educational experience for me because I wasn't aware that this whole industry, the whiskey industry, the bourbon industry, is really getting hit hard at this time. So it ain't just this distillery, but it's, the industry itself, for quite a few reasons, they're getting hit pretty hard. And they were given kind of an education behind that and really talking about that, giving you the backdrop of everything and all of that. And it was really, really something. And I was like, wow, I might come back just to learn more about it, just the industry itself. And so anyway, there were two different, and I'll include that in the video that we do. I might even have Nicole coming in because I knew that story would be right up her alley. So she's looking at it as well. And we'll get into it. But for now, I want to touch on this post that I did that they're talking about here. And, because there's an aspect to this story that I don't know if people are talking about this here. Here we go here. So let me get here. So let me pull it up here. So what you're seeing right here is Mr. Nearest Green on the left-hand side. He's the guy that helped Jimmy Bean, or taught Jimmy Bean how to make whiskey in the first place. He taught him. This guy, he taught the man. And really, it's this guy that really helped establish that whole, that whole industry. You know what I mean? You know how, we talk about that sometimes, where you hear some black folks talking about, how we invented everything. Black people, we invented everything. We invented space. Black folks invented space. Did you know that? We invented all the planets and everything. And flying saw all of that. We invented all of that. But and people could be a bit much with that, right? But this gentleman here, he can be credited for really establishing this industry. And for years and years and years, his story never got out until people started looking into it, and it was like, dang, okay, he's the man. And what you're looking at on the left-hand side is a cropped photo because he was kind of tucked in there, but this is the brother right here that really established this thing. But anyway, so I want to read to you what I wrote. Okay, I'm just going to go through it real quick, and in case you missed it here. But like I said, again, this is something that I'll get into. I want to do a separate video on this because there's layers to this story, but I want to talk about one particular layer. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna get to it. Thank you for another super chat. Okay, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. I'm gonna read what you said too once we get to that part though. Let's see. I said if I do decide, I said, but putting that to the side for a moment, I said I noticed something else, something that is part of a trend: the bodies of dead black men being used to jumpstart black women empowerment. I said, let me explain. Story number one. I said, we have talked extensively, and we've have about the history behind Black Lives Matter movement and how it kicked off the murder of after the murder of Trayvon Martin. in our own series of videos, we took viewers right to their own website, talking about Black Lives Matter, and showed you how their own list of priorities of things that needed to be addressed on behalf of the Black community included LGBTQ, single mothers, but left out straight men, particularly straight Black men. I said, let's not forget the two of the founders, because there was three founders. Two of the founders themselves were lesbians. Again, now, what you choose to do in your own bedroom and something, I don't care. That's you. That's your life or whatever. But it is something worth noting here as we continue. I said Black Lives Matter would make sure their hashtag showed up anytime a Black man was shot up by an officer and would use his body to amplify their message. But it wasn't until George Floyd's death where their message really took off. Now, again, we don't have short memories here. If you do, you just listen in, okay? Because I ain't got no short memory. I don't have a short memory. I remember all of this, all right? Because Black Lives Matter, it took off, during that whole Trayvon Martin stuff, but it wasn't until George Floyd where this thing skyrocketed. And I said they were able to convince not only corporate America, but even the federal government to push a public policy that greatly benefited LGBTQ, Black women, people of color, and everyone else in that order. I said when Trump came into office and shut down these policies, the world was able to see just how much of a reach this movement had when it was announced that roughly now this is a real important part here. Roughly 300,000 Black women had lost their jobs. Many of these Black women had, and then I said, many of these Black women have the dead bodies of Black men to thank in part of the policies that helped who put them there in the first place. Now, let me switch off here for a moment because I do need to explain this. Now, am I saying that Black women, just across the board, all Black women, there are no Black women that were ever qualified to do anything? No, I'm not saying that. Get out of your emotions. I'm not saying that at all. There are plenty of Black women who are fully qualified to be in the positions that they're in. Okay, so let's not go there. But we cannot deny the fact that there were major policies, starting from the government, going all the way into corporate America, policies that pushed Black women and LGBTQ into positions that, quite honestly, they were either positions that were really kind of sort of not needed or just positions that they weren't really qualified for. Now, how are you saying this? How dare you say that, Dwayne? How dare you say that? Why would you say something like that? Well, let me just say it to you. Let me just make it plain for you. If they are telling you right off the top, because we're just seeing the beginning of all of these layoffs, we're just at the top of this thing. If the first group, you're going to get rid of the easiest weight, the weight you really don't need, that's the first that's going to go. When you see the ship is about to sink, you're going to start going after the stuff. Well, we don't really need that. Well, just think of an economy, think of a business. The first thing you trying to save money, you ain't going after the high end stuff. You ain't trying to get rid of the high end, your valuable employees. You're not trying to get rid of them first. The people you trying to get out of the door first are the people that you really don't need. Oh, I'm just going to tell you. You thought I was going to say something different? No, I'm just going to tell you. This is how it works. This is how business works. You get rid of the things I could do without that. And what that report from the Labor Department said was that over 300,000 Black women really were not needed. That's what it was saying. That's what it was saying. And the fact that they focused specifically on Black women, that particular demographic, they didn't say Black men. They didn't say Asian men. They didn't say Asian women. They didn't say that. It was no other group that got hit that hard but Black women. What that says to you is that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, had a pretty substantial part in putting these people in those positions in the first place. And so when Trump got in there and he said, nah, we done with this. We ain't done with it. We ain't doing this anymore. It severely impacted the economic status of these people, and they said, we don't need you anymore. Now, I'm really dog walking you a little bit. I'm just going real slow with this because that part really needs to settle in here. I want you to really think about that. Over 300,000 and counting. They said we don't need. Now, because a lot of times people say, well, it's AI and all that. Child, AI is messing with everybody's pockets right now. I mean, it ain't just, it's messing with everybody's pockets. But the fact that but this ain't just AI. This ain't an AI thing we're talking about here. This ain't an AI thing we're talking about here. These are jobs. These are positions that they said we don't really need. Like Team Truth just said, non-critical systems are the first to go. Hello. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'll put it on there. Let me put it up on here. Non-critical, because y'all got to read it. Non-critical systems are not the first on the list to go. That's for, he said, he corrected it. Are the first to go. He corrected it. I put the wrong one on there. No, you need to read the right one he put up here. Non-critical systems are the first to go. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what DEI produced. Now, why am I taking my time with this? Because you need to understand there would be no DEI if it wasn't for George Floyd. It wouldn't be a DEI if it wasn't for Trayvon Martin and other black men that died at the hands of a cop or a white person. That was the sacrifice that it took for at least 300,000 black women to get employment. Pause on that and think about that. Over 300,000 black women got employed because of the deaths of George Floyd and Trayvon Martin. If it wasn't that, you wouldn't have Black Lives Matter. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have had DEI. And then all the other young black men that were shot, killed, or whatever, and Black Lives Matter. You remember that hashtag was everywhere. People just throwing that around. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. You remember all of that? That all fueled this whole movement. See, nobody wants to think about that. But that's the truth. And so I'm sitting back here. And so anyway, so let's go back here and let's read the rest of the story here. Because see, this is the part of the history that people don't want to, they don't want to recall this stuff. But let's go. I said, now, okay, then I said, okay, part of policies that helped her get there. Okay, so let's go. Oh, yeah, someone said Michael Brown. Yep, same thing, Michael Brown. Nearest Green is the black man who was credited for teaching Jack Daniels on how to make whiskey. As more and more black individuals began to learn of his story, it became yet another point of pride that we could point to and show our children. In comes Fawn Weaver. All right, let's go. While working on a book on Nearest Green, which I think is a very interesting name, Nearest. I wonder what the history is on why they came up with that, Nearest. Anyway, it's a really interesting name. Back then, black folks, they used to assign some really interesting names, and there's always a history behind it. But anyway, the history is always it's even funnier when you hear about it. But anyway, she traveled to interview his descendants. Upon learning the truth about his story, she took it upon herself to create a distillery in his name. The distillery has become a huge success, where she has used that platform to provide full scholarships for any of Green's descendants to attend the school of their choice. And she also created a distilling certification program for black Americans. You can go to Wikipedia that outlines that. So she's doing some good in the hood, so to speak, with this thing. And the distillery is really like skyrocketed. I mean, it's like the darling. It's been the darling of that industry for a minute now. I mean, they have grown exponentially. I mean, they have been doing, on the outside, they've been doing quite well. All right. So yeah, ain't no hate on that. I mean, shoot, somebody can come in and do something, and you help, whatever. And there's black folks doing it, doing something that, is progressive and all of that. For what I understand, the town where this is, it like it's literally breathed some major economic life in that town. I mean, it's that significant. They've done a lot of positive things. So that is true. We're not gonna not acknowledge that. Okay. But there's another part to this story. I said, but the details still matter. I said, just as it eventually emerged that the founders of Black Lives Matter was spending money in questionable ways, now we have this lawsuit against the distillery making similar allegations. While she has taken to the internet to provide quote unquote receipts, admitting that her own CFO was mishandling the money, while you still benefited from it, does not look good at all. And I said the distillery is being sued by Farm Credit Mid-America over a $108 million loan. Again, we may discuss that later on. So yeah, so the lawsuit is out. You can read it. Somebody, people posted it, so you can read the whole lawsuit. And I'm like I said again, that's part of my own research, is going through it myself, and so I can do this video correctly when I do it. But the lawsuit itself, it highlights quite a few things that were quite questionable. She is someone that on social media, at least, she has a very strong following, a very, very strong following, and she knows how to hype people up, and stuff. That's, if you got that personality, hyping people up, I mean, you automatically going to be, that usually translates onto social media. So she has a very strong fan base of people, but, facts are facts. When you get in the courtroom, none of that matters. And so, her CFO, like I said, she acknowledged, or their side acknowledged, that their CFO was quote unquote mishandling the money, and but usually that's what happens when you get caught doing that, and the CFO is usually the first to get blamed. And so there's some other stuff that I think will be discovered. And, she's trying to hype people up like there's something big coming. There's something big, but we've seen this. We've seen this story play out. Meanwhile, the bank is saying, we're ready to move in, put this in receivership, meaning that the bank is going to take over. That's pretty much what it looks like right now. They just had a hearing yesterday on it. And the judge, from what I understand, he's going to look over it, and we'll probably be hearing something soon on his final decision on it. But the bank, that's what they're demanding right now, is that they go move this into receivership, in which the assets will be turned over to the bank and all of that kind of stuff. And there you go. Like I said, there's some other details. I'd rather not talk about it now. I'd much rather talk about it when I got everything that I can get on it. But I just wanted to give you that much so you could understand that, yeah, there's some other stuff that isn't, it's a lot of gray. Let's just put it that way. Nobody's going to be thrown into jail. It's not like that, but there's a lot of grayish stuff going on there. All right. But at the time of the writing of this post, I said the distillery is in a ruling away from being handed over to the receiver, which would mean that that Weaver, that's the woman's last name. What's her name here? Anyway, I got it somewhere here. It starts with a K. Anyway, it's right here. Where is it? Hold on. Fawn Weaver. There you go. Fawn Weaver. Okay. Anyway, Farm Credit. Okay. At the time of this writing, I said the message that is being pushed out and amplified by fans The white man doesn't want to see a black woman succeed. Well, let's go ahead and squash that right now. If the white man didn't want to see her succeed, the white man wouldn't have given her $108 million. So go sit down somewhere. Go sit all the way down with that nonsense. But that's what's being pushed out right now. All right. I said, now, if you take a look at the other images on this post, which I will show you, you will see something that looks very familiar to the Black Lives Matter portion. LGBTQ flags and colors. And this is what I was talking about here. So, yes. So she is using the name of Nearest Green. Because I went on her, is this Instagram? I think, yeah, this is her Instagram page. And this is some time ago. I guess it was like Pride Month or something like that. They did a whole campaign. They say y'all means all, and she was proudly, in the comment section. Yeah, that's right. It's everybody, LGBTQ all the way and all that. Right. And I said LGBTQ flags and colors. I said, could someone tell me, how does LGBTQ tie into the legacy of a straight, and I do emphasize straight, black man who married a woman by the name of Harriet Green, where they had 11 children together? How the hell does that even tie into his life? How does it? But this is a common thread. When you looked at Black Lives Matter, they were 100% pushing LGBTQ policies. 110%. Meanwhile, they left black men off the list. And they would, like vultures, anytime they heard of a black man dying, they would be right there to hashtag it to death again so that they can push their own narrative. Now we got this gentleman here who died years ago, many, many years ago. Now you pushing this stuff. And we've gotten into details on the impact of this lifestyle when creating families. We've talked about this. If that's how you want to live that's you. That's you. But there are real consequences. Just like there's consequences if you are having sex with somebody that you're not married to, and then when a baby comes in the picture, you abandon them. You may not be homosexual. You may not be lesbian. You may not be in that. But there are different things. So we do address that as well. That's wrong. That's just as wrong. When you just abandoning kids and, doing that, spreading disease and all that stuff, that's wrong too. But I'm saying just biologically, and we've talked about this, when it comes to this lifestyle, there's a lot of things that's tied to this that, again, it does not grow communities. It doesn't. Period. End of discussion. So the fact that the black church is all in on this stuff right now, it really is quite telling. But anyway, that's a whole nother story here. So I close out with this. I said the saddest part of watching all of this is realizing that far too many members of what is called the black community are too locked into I support anything black narrative, that they are unable to see the actual details and nuances that are ultimately counterproductive. In this latest case, the great legacy of a black American man is about to be tainted. That to me is the biggest story. And so, yeah, that's the post I did right there. And, that's really what's going on here. So when we're looking at the focus of this, a lot of people are looking at Fawn Weaver on this and saying, oh, they hate her. Oh, it's about her. No, it starts at the beginning. It starts at the beginning. Nearest Green and his legacy. Because if it's coming out, and like someone said, once the bank brings your behind into court, that's pretty much a wrap at that point. So it's pretty much getting ready to be turned over. His legacy now was unearthed. So basically what she did, she dug him up, used his legacy to profit. Oh, she was throwing some change to the family or whatever. Okay, good, whatever. And then if they were doing a lot of gray stuff, they weren't really considering the fact, wait a minute, we got to be very careful with this because ultimately this is his legacy. But they didn't care about that. So now they're in court, and now his legacy, first you had Jim Beam that took money off of this man. Now you're going to have the bank coming in and saying, we're going to take some more money off of this man. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's interesting to sit back and to watch how that part of the story is being left out. Meanwhile, again, you promoting LGBTQ, you promote all this other stuff. You promoting that, but you know, meanwhile, doing the same cycle over and over again. So I wanted to bring that out, and you know, and it's really something to sit back. I was actually on X or Twitter earlier, or was it a couple of days ago, and this woman, I mean, she just said it. It's a black woman. She just said, this wasn't a bot. This is a real black woman. And it was, I don't know what it had something to do with a homosexual guy. He said something or whatever. And she said, I'm surprised, you know, because as, you know, black women and homosexuals, we're supposed to be on the same team. She said this out loud. And I was like, wow, okay, so it's official. We saw that during the Kamala situation as well. How they went after straight black men for not getting on a Kamala train. You remember all of that? Oh, we ain't forget. I told you, I am never forgetting that. Never. I'm never forgetting that. Never. The way they came after and the threats and all that. That's You never forget people, especially people who are wishing your death. You know, that kind of stuff. That ain't something to be like, sis, we still No, we're not. Look. No, we're not. No, just play. No, we're not. Nobody, people talking crazy like that. Nah, you better back all the way. But yeah, that was something there. But we're going to keep our eyes on that story. There's really interesting story. There's a lot in there. But I wanted to cover that part too, you know, just keep bringing that part home that, you know, but once again, we got a story where the bodies of dead black men have been profited over, and now we're starting to see their legacy getting tainted by the very people that claim to be your own. We're going to tell the truth here. And, you know, we've had people unsubscribe over the last few days, you know, just over some recent posts, you know, that I did or whatever, but go bye, like this one I did here. Bye. I'm going to tell the truth. Look at this one. Standing on businesses, not on businesses. You got this, you know, this man named Yah Blackfeather Shabazz Bey Grandma. He holding the Bible and the Quran. You know, but the Bible, you know, is just not the New Testament, no. And he's a Hebrew and a Moor and a Native American. Standing in front of an American flag. This is the level of confusion that's out here right now. But what we call black culture normalizes this and think this is okay. No, this is not okay. Somebody that literally, anybody, it may not be people. Well, there are people that walk around with at least half of this stuff. But if your belief system is all over the place like this, you look just like this individual you see on your screen. And the amount of people I dialogue with, there are a lot of people out here that are just like this. They get mad and they're like, oh, no, they ain't me. No. You see, you don't understand. See, we're the no. And a lot of these belief systems that you see, they all contradict each other all the time. So if they contradict each other, what does that mean? That means you're a contradiction. That means you are literally a walking contradiction. Yeah, I've said over and over again, listen, you go through black families, you go through, you know, our DNA or whatever, you're going to see, I'm talking about black Americans now, you're going to see some seasonings from different cultures, right? You're going to see definitely European, definitely going to see African, which makes up a majority. Oh my God, don't say that. Yes, it's true. It is true. You're going to see, depending on, you know, on the individual, you're going to see an even smaller portion of Native American. Native American will be there and present in many black Americans. That's true. That's nothing to, ain't higher from that. It's true. And you got even black folks and white folks that have last names that are Native American, like, you know, Byrd, BYRD, There's some other ones out there too. Brave. There's a whole bunch of them out there. So yes, so our lineage has been touched by Native Americans. But when you sit back and listen to these individuals fighting over being identified with the Choctaw, which history will tell you this tribe, this tribe literally fought to keep slavery going. So if you got, let's say, I'm just taking a wild guess here. Let's just say the average black person, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. Let's say the average black American has 15% of European in them. Let's just say it's around that number, 15%. When it comes to the average amount DNA of when it comes to Native American, it's usually around 2%. It's very low. So you're going to leapfrog. So you are going to you're going to embrace this 2% who enslaved you and fought to keep you enslaved. But you're not going to, I'm like, okay, if you got that same energy for them, then why you don't have that same energy? Why not just go ahead and go higher, go with the white people, try to fight to identify with white people. Why not do that? It makes no sense. I'm not telling you to do that. Of course, that's ridiculous, but it literally makes no sense when you look at the numbers. It doesn't. And I'm pleading with people, y'all, listen, I'm not saying that ChatGPT or Grok or whatever is the 100% factual truth and all of that, but it does give you enough. Your average search, they're going to have like 20 different sources. They'll tell you, we're reaching in 20 different sources to give you this information. We're reaching in 30 different sources to get you this information. Isn't that a lot better than getting it from someone saying, because I told you so? Isn't that a lot better than that? Don't you think that would give you more of a head start? I said this to my son the other day. I said, ChatGPT is the new book for black folks. If you want to hide something, hide it in the book. Remember they used to say that? Or I will go even further now in the digital world. If you want to hide something, if you want to hide the truth, put it in AI, because a lot of folks, unfortunately, they will not look it up. They won't. There are things that we have discussed on this platform. And I said, listen, I don't have to do a 4-hour video on it. It will take you 30 seconds to find this stuff on your own, and it will give you multiple sources. People won't look it up. They'll get mad. Well, what are you talking about? I'm like, look it up. Here, I'm giving you everything. Look it up for yourself. But they won't look it up. Like what we're going to talk about now, this main topic of this video here that you're watching now. Now, there's been one of the discussions that have been going on for the longest time, ever since this FBA nonsense is going on. And let me be very clear with this, okay? For my lineage, all you got to do is take my word for it. If you don't want to take my word for it, I don't care. But I can tell you, on both sides of my family, it goes all the way to the shores of South Carolina on a slave ship. That's where my whole lineage comes from. Okay, they trace it all the way through there. All right, I'm not Jamaican. They didn't come from Haiti. My bloodline ain't none of that. It's all Carolinas, baby. All Carolinas, all the way through there. That's my blood. That's my lineage on my side. And on my wife's side, it's Carolinas, and it goes into Louisiana and all that stuff, right? So we all in this house, this is where our bloodline is. Okay, so don't miss me with the you must be a tether and all that other nonsense. So get out of here with that, okay? But I do know my history, okay? And I'm learning more of it every day, as well as you should be learning it. So anyway, there has been this argument. So this FBA thing, Foundational Black Americans, founded by and owned by Tariq Nasheed, who created this whole thing. We're foundational, and he created it, stealing it from Yvette Carnell, who had the ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves, and all of that. And like I said, that's a whole video in itself, talking about the difference between the two and the history and how Tariq came in and took the idea and all that stuff. We're not going to get into all of that. But basically, the foundational part of this, what I'm talking about here, is that you have what's literally an online cult. This is not something on the streets. You don't see black folks on Main Street talking like this. Okay, so if you are not from here, if you're watching, I got some people watching from the UK and other countries as well. Let me just tell you, No black person is talking like that on Main Street. When you go outside, you won't see nobody out here talking about we FBA or ADOS. It's not that big. Most of what you see is online by people who basically ain't got nothing to do but to build this whole community thingy, if you will, on social media. But on the real streets, people ain't talking like that. They're not. Okay. So I'm just telling you. Okay. And so anyway, one of the talking points that many of their members would often throw, and still do, they throw at people who were not born here. You know, if they come from the Caribbean or they come from the continent of Africa or wherever. And they will say that, well, you fled your home. You know, you fled. You know, we stood here. We stood on business here. But see, you guys, you fled your home. If things, you know, if you got all that, once you go back and rebuild your home, right? This is a talking point, you know, that oftentimes is used out there. Okay. Portraying these people as they're just too weak, too dumb, too scared. But we here as Black Americans, we stood on business. We didn't go anywhere. We stood on business. We've always stayed here. We always been here and all this stuff. And so what that shows is just the level of just basic ignorance that a lot of these people have when it comes to Black history. Okay. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Number one, all you got to do is read about Liberia and how Liberia was formulated. Liberia was formulated because Black Americans fled. They left America to go start something which they thought was going to be a paradise in Africa. You want to know more? You want to know more of the story? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you more of the story about Black Americans who went to Liberia. When they went to Liberia, there were many of them that died initially because it was just, of course, this is an American project. This is the United States government actually said, hey, listen, I know niggas but over there, right? But of course, they put them in like in the worst of the worst parts, right? And so people were dying, you know, there was disease and all that stuff. But then they finally figured it out. Now, but it was Black American led. Okay, I want to be clear with that. See, this is the part that they don't want to remember this. Okay, but this is history here. It was Black American led. They went over there, and what did they do? Well, yeah, a lot of times, many of you heard, oh yeah, well, they established the country, they helped establish it and all that. Yeah, they did. How did they do it? By enacting in slavery. But this time, they weren't the slaves. I'm talking about Black Americans. The people in that land became the slaves to Black Americans. Oh, that's the part you didn't hear about, did you? Yeah, they did. In fact, and we did a video on this. In fact, you had Black Americans that commanded or basically told these locals in Africa to build us plantation homes in the same style and design as the plantation homes that were in the South. Look it up. Look it up. And so that's what you would find. You had Black Americans who basically mandated that they would get plantation homes built in the same style as you found in the South. They wanted to be massa so bad, they literally enslaved Africans to do it. But we don't want to talk about that, do we? And then Liberia, you can continue to read the whole history of Liberia. They're still suffering as a result of all of that nonsense. Okay, that was Black Americans that did that. Okay, and I'm saying this as a Black American. But let's continue. The biggest thing is, a lot of us here in the United States, we've heard of white flight, right? And white flight is usually accustomed to it basically means white people leaving, areas that are mainly, got a high percentage of Black people. That's typically what it is. Blacks and darker skinned folk, dark folk. So white people, after a while, they say, you know what? I'm done with this. We're going to leave the cities and we're going to go out. We're going to get as far away from these as possible, right? So that's referred to as white flight. And so it was white flight that basically built the suburbs, what we know as the suburbs, right? So you had black folks at one time in this country that were mainly in the inner city areas. That's not the trend now, but it's at one time it was. I'm just giving you a little back history on. Let me see what this. It's not a cult pointing out your lineage. It's not a cult. That's ridiculous. Tariq did not get that from ADOS. He got it from Dr. Claude Anderson. Well, no, you making that up completely. Okay. You're making it up completely. Number one, Tariq Nasheed did in fact get that from that. All you got to do is go back. I don't understand how people just have these short memories these days. He did. There was a whole big thing back and forth with them, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he did that. Now he's been trying to roll with Dr. Claude Anderson. But this whole thing about FBA, that didn't get birthed until ADOS after their first. It was coincidentally that started right after their conference, ADOS conference. It was just a coincidence. And they say it's not a cult pointing out your lineage. Yeah, well, the way you do it, it is. When anybody that disagrees with you, if you tag them as a tether, or you immediately dismiss them as a tether, or you calling them all kinds of names and stuff without any kind of facts or at all, yeah, that's a cult. And it's a dumb one at that. And we're going to get into it. Hey, I got you. So anyway, let's move on here. So getting back to what I was saying, so it's, of course, when we look at the landscape now, most black people don't live in the inner cities, right? Black people now live in the suburbs, but I'm going to show you some numbers to show you just what the percentages are of black folks from living in the suburbs. Why did they leave the suburbs? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay. So let me go ahead and let's get the hard numbers on this. Because for some of you who are around my age, you're going to remember that there was a time, I would say in the 90s, or probably even before that, quite honestly. But I remember like in the 90s, early 2000s, it was a huge talking point where people would oftentimes ostracize black folks who left the inner cities to move out into the suburbs because they were being accused of leaving black people behind. How you going to leave black people behind? See, you doing all that talk, but are you going to move back into the community and help build up the community? That was a big talking point. See, I don't forget stuff like that. That was a huge talking point amongst black Americans in those days. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the numbers here. Let's see. All right, here we go. So now this new trend that we got going on, I'll say new, but I'm new as in since I would say like the mid 70s on up, because my family was part of this thing. It's called Black Flight, where black folks said enough of the inner city. I'm tired of the mess. I need to get up out of here. And so there was a huge trend of black people leaving other black people in the inner city. You want an example? Like I said, my family was part of that. You got Philadelphia, because I'm a Philly guy. Okay, born and partially raised in Philadelphia. And then the crime got so bad. Now, in the community that I lived in North Philadelphia, it was mainly in that time, it was mainly black American. You also had Puerto Rican. We say Puerto Rican. That's how we pronounce it. It was black people and Puerto Rican. You didn't have Colombian. You didn't have all this other stuff, mixture and stuff that you see today. It was very definitive. So I remember, because we lived in North Philadelphia, mainly black folks. There was probably a couple of white people that lived in our street, but they booked and gone because the crime started getting too bad. My dad brought a 1976 Cougar, a green one. Never forget this. A green 1976 Cougar with white leather seats. He brought it brand new. I'll never forget this. And he was so proud of that because my dad worked hard. He was a very hard worker. You know, he came from the South, worked his way up, went to school at night at Temple, you know, and just worked his way up. Finally, he had enough money to buy his first brand new car. He didn't even have that car for that long. He went out one day, the car was gone. You know who took it? It wasn't tethers. It was black folks, because that's all who lived in that community. And so it made him so mad. I remember as a child, I was mad. I didn't half understand. All I knew was I saw my dad was upset and just angry about it. It made me angry. Until my dad said, you know what? Enough is enough. We out of here. So eventually they put their coins together and we relocated from Philadelphia, North Philadelphia to South Jersey. And we were part of a trend of black folks who were also waking up to the reality. Hey, listen, as soon as we get our money together, let's get up out of here, because these niggas are basically tearing things down. And that's what happened. So there was a huge trend of that, of black folks moving to the suburbs. But, you know, as time went on in those suburbs, you know, like the saying goes, you can move from the city, but for some people, they bring the city with them. And so you saw crime going up there, even then. But that's my experience. That is my personal American experience as a black American, born, raised here, whole nine. I could tell you that, okay? I lived it. So you cannot argue me out of my own personal experience. That's what I saw and experienced. And there are many other black Americans that will tell you the same thing. So yes, this whole trend of black flight is very real, very real. Anyway, the majority of black Americans, I'm reading off of this here. The majority of black Americans in large metros now live in the suburbs. Let me read that again. The majority of black Americans in large metros now live in the suburbs. Now check this out. Crossing the 50% mark by 2020 and reaching 54% in the 100 largest metros, according to Decennial census and ACS-based synthesis. These are some resources that they have here. Crossing over 50% of black folks have fled these areas, mostly black areas, to move out in the suburbs where you have a higher percentage of white people. Suburbs themselves are far more diverse than a generation ago. People of color are now majority in the suburbs of a growing number of major metros. Because, you know, I want to sidetrack here, but, you know, there was a story out here talking about the, you know, there was some white people starting to get together now saying they want to start creating their own white only communities. I don't care. Go for it. Go for it. That's your community. Build it. I don't care. I'm interested in, okay, what are the black folks? Well, black folks building there? What's going on with the black community? So I went back again. You remember that community that they said was called Freedom Town in Georgia? Oh yeah, we did a couple of videos on that. Freedom Town in Georgia. Do you remember the whole media spread that they did? It was a bunch of black families got together. They put their coins together and they bought over 100 acres of land. And oh yeah, we followed up on it. I followed up on it. In fact, I followed up on it today. Ain't nothing there. That project been on since 2019, 2020. It still ain't nothing there. I'm looking up right now as I'm speaking. I've been looking up, okay, where are the founders? What's going on? I mean, they done moved on to something else. Nothing's there. So we could talk about, you know, the dude over in Africa saying he's going to buy, you know, build this new Wakanda. You remember that? I mean, there was some silly stuff. He said he's going to build a Wakanda, a real Wakanda where black people from all over can move there and all that stuff. And of course, that was a big failure. And see, as black Americans, we'll sit back and say, yeah, silly Africans, you know, of course, it's always going to fail. But we got to look at what we're doing here, too. We got to look at this, too. You understand what I'm saying? But again, people get mad when you hold the mirror up. But I'm not doing this to beat anybody up. This is how you got to get rid of the BS if you want to build something that is going to stand. Do you understand what I'm saying? You got to but first you got to get rid of the BS on both sides. Let's see. Return moves back to one's original neighborhood after leaving are not a broad trend. So black folks aren't really moving back into the hood. Once black folks tend to leave these communities that were traditionally black communities, they tend not to go back. There's no measurable amount of data that shows that black folks are moving back to rebuild these communities. But the people who are moving in there are white people, of course, and Latinos. They're moving in there. And that's why it's called gentrification. And of course, the pricing goes up and all of that stuff, right? Let's see here. What the latest numbers say? Suburbanization milestones. Black suburban majority. The black population became more suburban than urban. Read that again. The black population became more suburban than urban for the first time in 2020. 51.1%. And then they give, they're giving some other stuff here. And then it goes into talking about some of the reasons why black folks do leave. Of course, we mentioned crime, but you also have the schooling, education. The argument that's oftentimes put out there is, well, the government is shifting more money to the suburban schools and not into the black schools or schools that have a majority black population. There is truth to that, but let's ask why. Nobody stops to ask why. If you have schools where the parents don't even support it, why in the world would the government or anybody for that matter continue to send money into those schools? If you listen to black teachers that are in these schools that are at least you got teachers that will put in work and say, you know what? I'm going to go, I'm going to teach these kids because we can't turn our back on them. When you look at the numbers of the amount of time, on average, teachers spend time actually teaching, it's you will fall out of your seat. Basically, teachers on average spend, after getting all their training and education, on average, their career lasts between 3 to 5 years. After that, they get out of it completely. Now, this is across the board, but on average, it's higher in areas where you'll find a lot of us. And one of the biggest complaints that you will hear from black teachers now, you get white teachers say it too, but I'm just saying black teachers. One of the biggest complaints that you will hear coming from black teachers is they say the parents don't care. They don't even show up. They don't. So the parents ain't showing up. What outcome do you expect? So that's why the schools tend to be worse. So what happens is you got black folks, they'll say, you know what? I'm done with this. I done tried to do what I could, but now I'm going out. Let me go out to the suburbs because at least they got their stuff together. But then what happens is they go to the suburbs. Not all black folks, it's not all black folks do this, right? But it does reflect, it does show. In my case, like where I'm living right now, I am seeing an increase of black folks here, but in where I live, believe it or not, it ain't really black folks there is crime amongst black folks too, but I'm seeing a lot of Hispanics causing stuff and white kids. You know what I mean? But there is an undercurrent of black people. I'm starting more and more. I go to the store. I'm like, man, all these black people, where y'all come from? But black folks are coming out here. And I'll be honest with you, back in my mind, I'm like, Lord, please don't. Please, y'all don't. Please, let's just, whatever. But this is black folks, black Americans fleeing. Now that you personalize it, maybe you can better understand why black folks, people moving, fleeing Jamaica, fleeing the Caribbean, fleeing Africa. Maybe it makes a little bit more sense now that you bring it close to home now. Because in many cases, you're behind it. You were doing it as well. Your family did it too. Why? To get better opportunities. Now, the other nonsense that you see going on out here, as far as like, people who aren't born here having a dim view of black Americans, period, saying kind of shady stuff or whatever. It does happen. It does happen. I'm not excusing that behavior. And shame on you if you are a guest in this country and you come and you want to say some derogatory things about black folks or whatever, or try to think you better than them and all that. Shame on you. Take your behind back to your country. I will tell you that. I would say that. Then go somewhere else. But don't do that. Don't disrespect the people in this country. You understand what I'm saying? And likewise, I would say the same thing to black Americans too. Then just don't judge the whole thing based on the few that come over that do cause trouble like that. There are people that I've encountered that are like that. When I was in Florida, from my experience, Florida, it was a great place to visit or live, I should say, for a while. But I was glad to get out of there because I was like, oh man, this is nice here. I was like, oh, this is what, I'm still a little bit ignorant a little bit. And I said, oh man, okay, this is the black section of town. I could go. But it was all Caribbean. But the Caribbeans, man, they made it clear that, okay, you ain't us. It wasn't nobody like spitting in my face or calling me names or anything like that. You could just feel like you were not them. You could feel that. But that's not my experience with people from the Caribbean, period. Like if I got friends and people who are, and they're not like that, but all in all, I could feel that. And I was like, this ain't probably somewhere I want to call home permanently. So we got up out of there. But yeah, that's, so on the other side, don't judge the whole thing based on a few. The other post that I did on the community page, I don't know if you saw it, Nadine's, that 24-hour, I guess 7-day-a-week braiding shop. It was someone on Twitter, that reported them to ICE simply because the founder, Miss Nadine, she wasn't born here. And so they, the name of their channel, you can see the screenshots on my community page. They call them their FBA. They could probably call themselves FBA. And then they later on, what you didn't see later on, they left another comment. They said, let me see if I can pull it up. It was something horrible what they said. They said, because I reminded this person, I said, well, filing a false report, that's illegal. And you can get in trouble for doing that. And it's right here. Let me see. He said this here. Hold on. It was horrible. He said, he said those Africans, and he's talking about the people at Nadine's. He said those Africans hate America and they still eat bush meat. That's what he said. So it's that kind of behavior as well. For me, I'm like, nah, you can go jump in the lake with that. Do not associate me with FBA. Do not associate myself. Don't associate this channel, this platform with that. I know you got some other channels that are FBA. Every other word is FBA. We FBA, all of that. Okay, fine. You do that, but don't put my name associated with that. No. No. There are plenty of people that I have encountered in my life. There are people that I've worked with in the past that are from all over, be it South America, Central America, Africa, wherever. I have great relationships with them. Do they speak for, and when we have our conversations, they do talk about the mess that's going on in their neck of the woods and all that too. So we're able to compare notes and all that kind of stuff and have a wonderful conversation and a beautiful relationship. But you're not going to catch me out here blaming the whole simply because a few knuckleheads decide to get on social media and start spreading stuff. It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. So anyway, I don't want to prolong this video, but I just wanted to share those two things with you. The story about the distillery and in this particular situation here about, just bringing the light when you hear people say that, these, immigrants, they fled their country. Well, Negro, you fled your own cities. You fled your own cities. Talk about that. Are you going back to your cities and building them up? Cities where you locally represent the government. Are you going back to build up those cities? Are you doing that? But it's just like today, people, they just, I don't know. It's short memories, and you just leave yourself wide open for this kind of stuff here. But I wanted to do this because some people really don't know. Oh yeah, Team True, you said a lot of them coming. You noticing it too? Yeah, it's an uptick, man. I was like, whoa, it's all right. And I've come across something, and look, this wave covered in. I'm encountering some Negroes that actually will talk to you, because when I first came out here, some of these Negroes, every time unfortunately, a good percentage of the ones I was encountering, they were in, especially they were brothers. They were, they had a white wife, which I don't care. That's you, do you, but bro, I'm here. You know what I mean? Come on. Hey, what's up, man? And I was like, hey, what's up? Or whatever. And they're like, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't want your wife. I'm good. I got mine, but that's what I was encountering a lot of. I mean, it was so bad. Even my family was like, yeah, you know this. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the comments here. Let me see what CTO said here. He's talking about the story I shared about my dad and his 1976 Cougar being stolen. He said, yep, my mom's Cougar was stolen 3 times. Jeez. Dang, how'd she get it back? One of those times, she and my dad actually found a parked at a bowling alley where they were part of a league. Dang, at least they found it. Let's see here. Let me see what someone else saying here. Coach in the house. This information sheds light as to the demographics of those groups of people who decide to pull their children out of school nationwide. It does. And that's why you're seeing more and more people saying, you know what, the heck with it. I'm just going to do the homeschooling thing. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. Let's move on here. This brother saying here, he says, I still believe in building a community. I do too. Black people move away to diverse areas to find out they are at the bottom of diversity. Brand new house with racial slurs sprayed on the side. Well, and you find out a lot of those stories. Guess who's spraying those racial slurs though? Most cases it ain't white people, brother. Let's keep it a whole buck. Let's keep it $1,000, okay? Let's keep it $1,000, okay? Does that ever happen? Yeah, on occasions, but most of the time, brother, let's keep it a whole buck. Most cases, when you have a large percentage of us moving into a suburb, you will see unfortunate things starting to turn. I know that's embarrassing, especially if you're someone that don't participate in that kind of nonsense. I know it is. It's embarrassing to me when I'm scrolling through my timeline and I see, there are channels now that are popping up that these people are making a mint off of these police cams. You've seen these police cam videos? It's people now, they're making a mint off of that. If you want a side hustle, start grabbing some of these police cam videos. And I wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying people are doing it. And unfortunately, a large percentage of these police cam videos, guess who's the star of the show? And it's embarrassing. I know. It's embarrassing. I have some people even try to say, well, it's AI. It's like, no, you can't AI out of that one. You can't. AI can do a lot, but it ain't doing that. It ain't doing that. I mean, some of this stuff is just, It's too much. It really is. And we have to start being honest. So solution time. What's the solution here? You brought all this stuff up. What's the solution? Solution is this. It's simple, but it is challenging. Solution is number one. And I'll just start and stop with number one. We have to start being honest with ourselves. We have to be willing to tell the truth. We have to be willing to acknowledge the fact that those that just because they look like you, and you know, I say this all the time, it does not mean that they are with you. It doesn't. I connect with people via frequency, and I ain't trying to be 3D, 4D, spooky, out of space or whatever, but I connect with people just on vibe and just that frequency. There are people I connect with, you know, we connect, and it goes beyond just race. It goes beyond what they look like. And most of the time, I don't, you know, and I don't go out of my way and say, I'm going to look for a Mexican today. I'm going to look for an Asian. No, it's not like that. There's some people I connect with, you know, and we don't have to say too much. We just connect. There's other people. It ain't that, you know, I just don't, you know, no, I'm not going to put myself in that position simply because we all look the same. There's sometimes I do go to events where, let me be around some people that look like me and all that. I'm all with that. But I am not. I have been set free from that, believing that I gotta always be around that. No. We have to be honest. We have to be honest with ourselves on that. And you're going to find that when you start connecting with people based on like frequency and just the vibe and how y'all flow, you're going to find yourself going a lot further than feeling like you got to always be in this one big group of similarities. You're not going to go far with that. You're not. And this is the biggest challenge for most people. It's the biggest challenge because when you lock yourself in that, you're also locking yourself into a certain mindset. And you're including people who got a lot of issues that will ultimately weigh you down. I'm not saying all black people are that. You got some wonderful black folks out there that are doing good things. They're moving forward. They're not full of drama. They're not doing any of that. There's many black folks out there. Please, are you kidding me? There are many black folks. But what I am saying to you is do not just simply build your network just on color alone. You can't do that. When you build your network, it's got to be based off of how you guys flow and connect, even non-verbally. And because if you're connecting with people and they always calling you asking for money and all this other stuff, and you sitting up here like, man, listen, man, we family at the end of the day and all this other stuff. It's like, no, you keep going in and out of prison. No, I'm sorry, you on your own. And that's how you got to start thinking. You got to start dropping these people that weighing you down all the time. Either just always in trouble. Every time they pick up, every time they call you, always telling you about something bad and negative. Never around to help you at all. Always just dragging. I don't want nobody around me like that. I don't care. You black, white, Asian. It don't matter to me. I don't want you around me. I don't. And I got to be even more stricter like that. You know, most times you are going to feel all alone. You are. It's a lonely walk to walk. But once you make up in your mind, that your peace is paramount, once you start there, then everything else will fall through. Everything else will fall into place. And the people that don't belong in your sphere, they will fall out and just say goodbye. And some of those people, guess what? They're going to be family members too. Some people you're going to have to say bye, see you. Oh man, well, we having a birthday party, man. You want to come up? Bye. I'll show up maybe on the Zoom call. That's about it. And that's how you got to be these days. These days is very important. Okay. And don't give in to this whole social media nonsense, these little cults and silly stuff that people be saying about each other, whatever. No, get out of that foolishness. Get out of that foolishness. Okay. We got plenty of tools out here. And Coach, I'm going to keep shouting Coach out, but it's a man who's putting together a whole, online school program using AI technology. He got engineers and all that working with him. He's doing his thing, man. He's creating solutions, and he's teaming up with people that are adding to him. That's first. If you adding to what he's doing, that's who that's his team. And as long as he's doing, he's moving forward, he's making this milestone, he's hitting that milestone. That's the kind of people you want around you. Don't ever feel like you gotta have everybody gotta look the same. In these days, I'm telling you from the other side, I'm telling you, as someone who thought that way for years and years and years, that all my friends, all my people, everybody around me got to be black. I thought that for years. And I learned the hard way many times. And what I'm telling you is you don't have to think that way. Get people around you that are going to add and help, that are going to be an asset to you. And likewise, you can reciprocate that to them. You know what I'm saying? And those are the people that you want around you at the end of the day. But most importantly, that those relationships, they have to stand on truth. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're going to tell truth. We're going to tell you the truth when it comes, regardless if we're talking about politics, if we're talking about religion, if we're talking about whatever it is. I'm going to tell you the truth. And then I'm going to say, here, you don't like it maybe coming from me. Okay, here. You can look this up here. It'll take you a few minutes and you can verify what I'm saying. For some people, unfortunately, the hardest thing about truth is, especially when I start talking about when I'm getting into the religion stuff, when I'm talking about that, it's not that people want to hear truth, but what they're afraid of is, well, if I hear it, then what's going to replace this false belief that I've had all this time? You know what I'm saying? Like we talked about, I'm closed. I'm done now, y'all. We're just talking now when we talk about the origin of Yah or Yahweh and where that comes from, right? I told you, I said, you can look this up. It's Canaanite deity. Oh no, it's in the Bible. It's a Canaanite deity. He was a Canaanite deity. No, it's not. See, what I believe, okay, I hear what you believe, and that's okay. You can believe what you want, but this is what the facts say. You can look it up. You can look it up. It's right there. And then when you finally, they're like, well, brother, see, if I do that, then who do you worship then? If it's not him, who do you worship? When I gotta worship somebody. What exact, outside of your Bible, where does it say that you have to worship somebody? I think a good part of our lives right now should be focused on unlearning a lot of the stuff that's been put in us. And that's plenty of work right now. Because you got so many people who feel like, well, if you take that away from me, what's going to replace it? No, I'm not trying to get anything to replace it. So it's full stop on all of that. Don't give me any of that other stuff right now. It's full stop right now. I'm still unlearning stuff. I was doing this, listening to this study this week. It made me sick with the stuff that I was learning just about the lies these people have been using religion. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. I shared the video with the research group. I was feeling myself getting nauseous. That's how bad it was. So I'm spending more time on that right now than just trying to feel like, okay, well, what God next? Is it this God? Well, maybe I'm God. Nope. Right now, I'm trying to clear the deck out right now so that I'm making sure that, okay, I'm still on truth, right? Okay, good. That's where it begins. Stand on truth. Tell the truth. Even if you got to tell the truth, some of the hardest times sometimes telling the truth to your own people, it's hard because a lot of people don't want to hear it. You're going to lose a lot too, but you got to tell the truth. Every time I get behind it, you know what I'm thinking about? Most of the time I'm thinking about my children, because I want to make sure when I check out of here, I got a solid example I'm giving them where they could say, you know what, Dad always told the truth. Same thing with my wife, same thing. I got to be truthful even with my relationship. I can't be telling you one thing and I got girlfriends popping up all over the place. Nope. I tell them all, check my phones. I got 2 phones. Check them. You can look all through my phones, look in my history. You can look through all of that. I got to be walking in truth. You understand what I'm saying? I gotta be what I'm saying to you. Let me see what Joseph is saying. Black people are the true Israelites of the scriptures, and being an Israelite is a religion. It is a heritage and a bloodline. Also, our God's true Hebrew name is Yahuwah, not a pagan Yahweh. Doot, doot, beep, bork, bork, oh. Okay, we just go through. I've got plenty of videos. I go to, I got a playlist. It's called Leaving the Hebrew Matrix. I would encourage you to check it out. You can believe what you want. You can make any declaration you want. But a declaration does not replace the facts. It doesn't. And what I would tell people like yourself, Joseph, is this very respectfully, is this. I'm going to ask you this. This is your assignment. Okay. You could choose to take it or not. Your assignment is this. I want you to prove without using the Bible that Abraham as an individual existed. I want you to start with that. Because since Abraham, according to the Bible, is the author of all this is your great grandpappy. I want you to be able to prove that, because that's a pretty strong declaration to make if you're not able to prove that. And be it Yah, and again, when you say Yahuwah, not Yahweh, you know they're just different spellings. It's the same deity. So I would encourage you, again, ChatGPT will help you. Takes you a few minutes to clear that up. Just a few minutes. Just clear it up. Don't take my word for it. Clear it up. Just go to ChatGPT. All right. It'll clear it up for you. All right. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you as always for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And then, yeah, make sure you check out our other brand new channel called The Black GPT. The next one I'm working on right now is working on that whole map thing, the map. I did like a couple of videos on this, but I'm gonna do one over there. But it's, and the key over there is I'm doing it very short, to the point. ChatGPT, The Black ChatGPT, that's the name of the channel. The Black GPT. Just go on our community page. You'll find a link there. We're doing it on that map where they said it was Kingdom of Judah. We're going to look at that. It ain't going to take me long. It ain't going to be a full documentary. It's just going to be a few minutes. Boom, boom, boom. And you're going to see for yourself exactly the truth behind that claim. All right. Very respectful, but to the point. All right. Thank you again for tuning in. You guys take care. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, weekend, whenever it is that you're watching this. Take care. And until next time, take care now.